Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cat Chat Live. My name is Nancy Stevens. I am a communications manager in the Office for Student Success, and I am so glad that you have joined us today for our preview of Big Blue Nation orientations. After a few quick housekeeping items, I'm going to turn things over to our presenters today. You'll get a chance to meet them. They'll run through all sorts of helpful information for you about what to expect with the Big Blue Nation orientations that start a week from today and continue for the next 4 weeks. And we'll take your questions along the way. We're using our Zoom webinar feature today, so we can't see or hear you, but you can use the Q&A in Zoom to share your questions, and we'll take as many of those as we can in the allotted time. So as you think of questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A. We'll be dropping links for you and sharing all of the information that you need to know. Michaela, if you wouldn't mind advancing the slide, please. Thanks. So the webinar is being recorded and will be put in the Cat Chat family community. It says in the next few days on the screen, but we'll try to have that done this afternoon. In case you're not able to join us the whole time, or in case you weren't able to join us live, we want to make sure that you have this information no matter what. After the fact, if you think of questions, you can always email parents@uky.edu for assistance. We'll also make sure that you leave with contact information for the orientation team. And we kindly request that you would consider taking the survey that will be available after the webinar, because we do want your feedback about the content we presented today and about the entire Cat Chat Live series. I do want to go ahead and put a plug in for the rest of the Cat Chat Live summer webinar series. This is really meant to predate the orientations, of course, but after the summer orientations are over in a few weeks, for a few weeks between orientations and move-in, we'll be doing webinars generally twice a week to help you get all of the information you need to support your Wildcat in prepping for the fall semester. So you can see on the screen a few of the upcoming webinars that we have. The registration links are all in the Cat Chat family community, and the majority of our summer schedule is already posted there. So hope that you'll make plans to attend as many of those as you can, or to catch the recordings in the Cat Chat family community. I also want to put in a quick plug for our Cat Chat family community. Hopefully you all have discovered that and found it to be a helpful resource with UK information. You can share it with others who are in your student support system. It's a place where they can get email newsletters, where you can tell us a little bit more about you and your student, whether they're living on or off campus, what college they're in, so that you can really customize the information that comes out in your Cat Chat family community newsletters. There's a place where you can comment and ask questions for other families and for our parent and family team at UK to answer. You can easily share information with your student right from the platform. There are event calendars, all sorts of things there meant to support you and get you the information you need about the University of Kentucky. So those are all of my housekeeping items. So without further ado, I want to turn things over to my friend and colleague, our Director of Orientation and Early College Outreach at the University of Kentucky, Michaela Kofer. She'll introduce herself and a first-year experience ambassador, who are a critical part of our Big Blue Nation orientation experience. You're going to get the chance to hear both from Michaela and Destiny, and then see them when you are here for your Big Blue Nation orientation. So I'll be moderating our Q&A, but for now, I'll turn things over to Michaela and Destiny. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Nancy. As Nancy said, my name is Michaela. I have the pleasure of serving as UK's Director of Orientation and Outreach. First, just want to say thank you. Thanks for tuning in today. We are getting really excited in the orientation office and really just all around campus for orientations that start just 1 week from today. I'm joined by Destiny. She is one of our fantastic first-year experience ambassadors, a current student, and those students are going to be all around during the orientation season to answer any questions you have. But she'll be tuning in today to answer your all's questions, as well as share a little bit about the student perspective of what to expect at orientations starting next week. So just to start off, what is BBNO? So BBN orientations, or the short form we call them BBNOs, are orientation programs that all new students participate in. At your orientation program, students get to register for their fall classes. They'll meet with their academic college and their advisor, who will work alongside them to register for classes. They'll also get to meet other new students, both in similar majors and colleges as them, similar career paths, or maybe they're interested in similar things. They have the opportunity to hear from campus organizations and offices, also different support systems that are going to be around to support them during their time at UK. One of the most important parts about these is that the programming happens for students and families as well. We know families are such an important part of the student's journey, both just as through adulthood, through college, and onto that career path and through graduation. So it's important to include both students and families during that programming. Some common questions that we'll get about orientation. Nancy stated that they will start next week and then they run for about 4 weeks. Almost every single day, back to back, we'll have some orientation programs, which are very exciting, a little bit tiring, but our first year experience ambassadors are very well caffeinated to help you all get through the day. Each orientation of our freshman orientations will see about 350 to 400 students, plus their parents and their guests and their family members. They are pretty big days, full of lots of fun and lots of excitement. Yes, the parents really do go, and they really do stay for the whole day. So the check-in will open about 7:30 to 8:15. I'll run through the schedule here in a few slides, but check-in will be open 7:30 to 8:15, and then you all will be done for the day by 4:30. And there's programming throughout the day for both students and family members. There's no really point that you won't have programming that you can go to and attend. So we really do encourage you to come if you are able. You can't really leave early, so students will register for classes in the afternoon, and they won't be done registering for classes until about 2:45 and 3 o'clock. Once they are done registering, you are welcome to leave, but we do have our resource fair that happens in the afternoon, as well as our resident hall open house and some optional living learning program sessions. So really the earliest a student could be done for the day is around 3:30. So do plan to be on campus from about 8 o'clock until about 3:30 on the day of your orientation. Yes, your students will register for classes. They will be working alongside their academic college. There'll be advisors there to help them register, to help them guide them through that process. But I do also encourage students to get familiar with the course registration system. It'll help them have a much smoother experience when they are registering for classes, have an understanding of just how that process looks, maybe what credit they're transferring in. I'll talk about where students can find all that info to help best prepare them here in a few slides. I mentioned that there is family programming that takes place at the same time. So there are times that you and your student will be together. There's also a couple of times that students and guests, you all will split up, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. So in the morning, that's going to be where students split up to go meet with other new students as part of a small student group called their Big Blue Crew. During this time, you won't go with them. You don't really want to be part of that student group. So we'll actually have you stick around for what we call supporting your Wildcat. This is going to be a presentation often led by Nancy Stevens of our parent and family team that will give you a bit more information about the support systems that are going to be here at UK for your students. Ranging from academic supports, financial supports, health and well-being supports. It's also going to be co-hosted by a current student, one of our first year experience ambassadors. So you do also get to hear their student perspective on their own experiences with all those support services here at UK. After that, you and your student are welcome to join back together. And then in the afternoon is the second time you will be split up. Students will go off, and that's when they will be meeting with their college to register for classes. And families, you will stick around for what we call the What I Wish My Family Knew student panel. This is where current students will be answering any questions you have, all questions you have. You all can ask some really interesting questions when your students aren't in the room, but be prepared to bring any questions you want to ask of a current student, and they'll be able to help answer them. You also get to hear a little bit more about UK Invest, which is a fantastic initiative that UK has implemented to help students improve their financial literacy, while also just learning those healthy habits to make sure they're successful as a student and even after they graduate. So those are the 2 times you can plan for that you and your students will be separated. There's some other times where you can optionally be together, or you could split up to hear from multiple sessions. And I'll go through that right here and now. So this is kind of what our schedule looks like. I mentioned check-in will open 7:30 to 8:15. It is an early morning. We do know that we will have a light breakfast for you consisting of donuts, fruit, some gluten-free muffins, juices, and coffee. But we will also have Starbucks, which is located in our student center, which is where check-in is. It'll be open starting at 7:30 as well, if you do want to plan to get Starbucks, right, when you arrive on campus. Check-in won't open until 7:30, so try not to get there too early. 7 o'clock, 7:15, we will still be setting up, but it'll be open 7:30 until 8:15. The formal program will start with our welcome at 8:30. It's also going to be located in the student center. You'll get a chance to hear from a senior member of UK's administration. We'll also run through the schedule for the day again. You'll also get to meet all of our first year experience ambassadors and learn a little UK tradition during that welcome. After that is when we'll have that first time that you all split up. Students will head to their Big Blue Crew meetings. We'll help get them there. We'll help them navigate campus to find that Big Blue Crew. And then guests, that's when you'll do your supporting your Wildcat presentation. After that, we have our student success sessions. So for these sessions, we have about 10 different offices that are going to be giving a presentation for you to learn a little bit more about one of those services here to support your student during their time at UK. These vary from education abroad to internships to campus involvement, fraternity and sorority life, quite a few different options for you all to choose from. Now, these sessions do only run once. It is one 30-minute session. So we do encourage students and families go to this. So if you all want to hear from more than one office, you can split up so you can hear from more than one session during that time. After that, starting around 11:15, 11:20 is when it's time for lunch. So we'll provide lunch for you in Champions Kitchen, which is one of UK's all you care to eat dining halls located in the student center. We'll give you a voucher for the day to help get you into that dining hall. But during lunch, you have a couple optional sessions you can choose from. Lunch will last a little bit over an hour, so you don't have to go right at 11:20. You can go to some of these sessions. You can kind of plan it out depending on what you want to do. But financial well-being with representatives from financial aid and scholarships, financial wellness, as well as student account services will be giving a panel, and then we'll also have a Lewis Honors College session during lunch as well. Our housing and dining teams will also be available, as well as our ITS department. So for any students having issues with Wi-Fi, with their Link Blue system, their logins, but also if you have any questions about roommates, room selection, room types, meal plans, dietitians, you can get all of those questions answered at lunch. All of those are going to be in the same location in the Gatton Student Center, just spread out across the Student Center. We then get to our afternoon portion of the day. Our afternoon portion starts with our family college meetings. So families, you and your student get to hear from your student's academic college, the college that they've been admitted to. It's kind of more about that college, but also about what to expect heading into the fall and what to expect in terms of academic curriculum and requirements. I will note a few of our colleges do split up students and families. So you might go to separate sessions, but you will definitely still be hearing from your student's academic college. These will last about 30 minutes, and then families, you will head back to the student center for what we call that what I wish my family knew student panel. During this time is when your students will be meeting with their advisor in their college and be registering for classes, and you'll get to ask any of the questions you have of our current students. We mentioned when the question about leaving early, the soonest you could leave is about 2:45. That is when students' registration window opens. So a registration window is when they will actually be able to register for classes. Click that register button. That won't be open until 2:45. But I will note when students register for classes is kind of dependent on the student. Some might be ready to register right at 2:45. Some might still be having conversations with their advisor in their college and might not finish registering until 3:15. Really kind of depends on the student and their situation. It's not bad or good either way if a student takes longer. It's just kind of dependent on the student situation. So we really encourage you all to not rush the students as they finish out those conversations with their college. We want to make sure they feel good heading into the summer and then heading into the fall about their schedule and about their course requirements. After that, starting at 2:45 is our resource fair. So our resource fair does last all the way until 4:15. We have about 50 different campus offices and organizations that will be tabling to answer any questions you all may have. We'll be able to see a list of those that are going to be participating in the resource fair in our guides app, which I'll touch on here in a few slides. But that resource fair is open the entire time. So if students are still meeting with their college once their registration window opens, they're okay. We'll have them stick with their college. They're going to be in good hands. That resource fair will still be there for them with all of that free swag, all of those free items when they return. Also in the afternoon, we'll have a residence hall open house. Two of our residence hall, so Jewel Hall and Roselle Hall, will be open for you to go see a model room. Now, you won't be able to go see all of the rooms in the residence hall. You'll only be able to see that specific model room. These are the only two residence halls that are going to be open, so we don't have the ability for you to go see your student's specific room in their specific residence hall. But in Jewel Hall, you'll be able to see a 3-person, 2-bedroom suite. And then in Roselle Hall, you'll be able to see that 4-person suite. This is going to be open starting about 3 until 4:30. Be able to go. It's located just right across the street from the Student Center to check out those model rooms. Our last things for the day start about 4. We have a few of our living learning programs that are going to give a session for students part of that living learning program. They'll also be having a session on Panhellenic recruitment. So for any students interested in that Panhellenic recruitment, we encourage them to stick around for that 4 o'clock session. It'll last until about 4:30. That's kind of it for our run through of the schedule. I'll talk here in a little bit where you can see a bit more detailed schedule with descriptions and locations, all of that in just one moment. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Destiny. She's one of our fantastic first year experience ambassadors to really talk about what her experience at orientation, also how you as family members and parents can best support your student during this exciting time, but also it can be a bit of a nervous time as well. I'm going to turn it over to Destiny and let her go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Destiny. So just like to open up the day, there's a lot of people, and it can be kind of nerve-wracking. And so I just know as an incoming freshman, I was very nervous, not knowing what to expect, not sure just how the day would go. So definitely one of the things I would advise is just, read their energy, their mood, come in with as much support as you possibly can. I know something that always helps me in the mornings is just to have my coffee, kind of gets me going in a good mood. And it's like, okay, like I can tackle this day no matter what happens. Um, and then, so something else for the divide and conquer, during the success sessions that McKaylee had mentioned before, um, you are more than welcome to split up and go to different sessions. And I think it definitely helps. Just, you can get as much information as possible, but you will also have access to the slides during, or that they present during those success sessions. So you'll be able to get all the information that you need. Um, and then as far as like how the day goes, I definitely advise to just let your student lead. They are probably going to be overwhelmed and want to just see everything, talk to everyone, and learn all the resources that UK has to offer. So you just want to like let them just lead the day. If they want to maybe go to a certain session that you think you may not want to go there, I think it's just fair um, to let them say, like, hey, I think we should, and we can just find out the information later. But this is their day, this is their time, this is their college experience. And so you just want to let them take full reign over that. Um, and ask questions more than telling them what you think they should do. I definitely agree to that. As far as just like having questions, obviously you're going to have certain things maybe regarding finances or just other specific questions that you have, and that's completely okay. But I think when it's to their experience, I think it's definitely just more me advising or, hey, is there anything I can do to help? Once again, they may be nervous or they may be excited, or a lot of times students make friends throughout the day, and so they just want to hang out with their new friends. So just giving them that freedom and that space to just allow them to figure out what they may want to do next. How McKaylee said, there is a little over an hour for lunch, and so you don't have to stay in the lunchroom the entire time. And so you may want to go visit another office or need help with something. And so just being able to, hey, what's our next move? Or if they're not really sure, then you can ask, okay, well, what do you need help with? Or where can I help at? Just to make sure there's still some sort of, structure and you have all of your questions answered. And then give them talks about how this is going to be great. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be so much fun. And then the college experience as a whole, it's amazing. I love it here at UK. And so just reassuring them that regardless of what they may think or the nerves that they may have, it's going to be all right. There are so many first year experience ambassadors here to help for families, guests, and students, to answer questions, to take them to different rooms, to give them advice on certain maybe organizations or clubs, or what it's like to live in a dorm or live far away from home or to live close to home. Like every question that you have, we'll have someone here to answer that for you. So just kind of reassuring them that, like, if you can't help with anything else, that's definitely something that you can let them know that they're going to be okay, and we've got them. Um, we're here to support them here at UK. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Destiny. You'll get to hear Destiny and our other first year experiences more when you're here on campus for your orientation. But they are a fantastic group of who all have such varying experiences to best fit whatever your student is incoming with. We can help, like she mentioned, if you're coming from close, if you're coming from far away, our group of first year experience ambassadors can help guide them on all of their experiences that they're going to have here at UK. So I'll touch on just a little bit on advising and registration. I think some of you might have noticed when I went through the schedule that advising and course registration part of the day, you'll actually not be with your students. So students will be with their college and with other new incoming students as part of their college on their own. We really do this intentionally. So I know you all are experts in a lot of things, but you might not be experts in the nearly 200 degree plans and programs UK has to offer. Your student's academic college, their advisor, is going to be that support system on the academics when they're here at UK. So we think it's really important for them to start forming that relationship when they're here for orientation. They'll have about an hour and a half, 2 hours to spend with their academic college. But then even after they leave, they are welcome to get back in touch with their advisor after orientation. So nothing is set in stone. So say you're coming next Monday, June 16th for your orientation. Nothing's set in stone. It can be if you want it to be, but students can always reach back out to their college, to their advisor if they have more questions, if they want to arrange another Zoom meeting to chat through some more things, all the way up through move-in, but even once the semester starts, their advisor is going to be that resource for them. So we really want them to start forming that relationship, start asking those questions, having those conversations, and taking the lead on that as well for when so they're best prepared for when they move in. All of that goes to say that you also will be meeting with representatives from your student's academic college and their advisors. That is part of that family college meeting. So you will still get to hear from your student academic college, but we really do want students to kind of take that ownership and take that responsibility of taking the lead on that relationship with their academic advisor in college. I do promise they will have so much to tell you when they get back from course registration. They'll be excited to tell you about it as well, and they'll have lots to say. With that, I'll turn it over to myself, but for our last reminders, heading into orientation before we then look through the chat function and whatever questions I can help you all answer. We have a couple big things we want students to be aware of heading into this BBN orientation season. So I mentioned that preparing for course registration, getting familiar with the course registration system, as well as all things orientation, takes place through Canvas, their pre-orientation modules. So all students have been added to what's called their Canvas course, CANVAS. It can be found at uky.edu/Canvas. Nancy, if you haven't included that in the chat, you can put it in there as well. But Canvas is where you'll find all the information you need about orientation. It'll be where you can see where to park and check in, what to bring, The app where you'll find the schedule will be linked there, as well as those pre-orientation modules that run through the course registration system so that students are prepared, as well as in particular, they fill out what's called an advising preparation form. So this information will go to their academic college and their advisor so that they are best prepared to meet with your student on the day of their orientation. We ask that all of this is completed 7 days prior to a student's orientation to make sure that their advisors in their college have ample amount of time to prepare to see your student. All students have been added to that Canvas course. They received an email to their UK email address. They should also be receiving an email about 2 weeks out to their personal email address, rehashing all this information to prepare them for orientation as well. For course registration, students will need to bring a laptop or tablet, if possible, or an iPad, any sort of device. Students are not able to register for classes on a smartphone, so we do need to have a laptop or tablet. Some important asterisks I'll add there, make sure it is a charged laptop or tablet. And also, if you, just in case, be sure to bring that charger with you as well, so we can make sure it has enough juice to get through the day. If you don't have a laptop or tablet, if you're in a pinch, we do have a few iPads that students can check out for the day. But I will note, we don't have a lot of iPads, so we don't have enough for all nearly 400 students coming. So do please bring a laptop or tablet if you are able to for course registration in the afternoon. We do ask that you dress comfortably. We will be using multiple buildings across campus and no matter what the weather. So no matter if it's 90 degrees outside, no matter if it's pouring down rain. So expect to walk some moderate distances across campus, wear some good walking shoes. You'll be walking outdoors, bring an umbrella if it's calling for rain, but be sure to dress comfortably as you navigate across campus throughout the day. Where to stay. So it is an early morning, 7:30 to 8:15. I do know a lot of you all will be coming in from out of town or out of state. You are welcome to stay in a hotel near campus. Our Visit Lex, Lexington's Visitor Center, has a lot of great options on their website. You can actually filter it by location or proximity to campus, as well as amenities if you want to find a hotel. But there is also the option to stay on campus in Jewell Hall, which is one of our residence halls. It's located just right across from the Gatton Student Center. It's $37 per person per night. You can find more information about that on our checklist. It's also listed in the orientation Canvas course. You can also find our checklist at orientation.uky.edu/checklist, where you can find all of these important reminders, as well as a link to make that reservation to stay in Jewell Hall if that is of interest to you all. Families, you're welcome to stay in Jewell Hall as well as your student. It's not restricted to either or. It's just $37 per person per night. Parking will be available in Cornerstone Garage. That is our 5-6-story parking garage located just right across the street from the Gatton Student Center. That is the only place that you will have free parking for the day. So if you find a different lot, do be aware that will be monitored by Transportation Services. So you might be at risk of getting a ticket. So we do encourage you to park in that Cornerstone Garage. That's where will be free parking throughout the duration of the orientation season. Even if you are staying overnight in Jewell Hall, that garage will be open for you when you leave that night, or maybe the next day. Garage will be open for those 4 weeks. Last thing I'll be sure to emphasize is UK Guides. So I ran through the schedule a little bit earlier, but where you'll be able to find the full schedule with descriptions, locations, links, maps, all of those functions will actually be found in our UK Guides app. This QR code will take you to it. You can also just Google UKY Guides. It's linked in the Canvas course. It's linked on our checklist. That's where you'll find the full schedule for the day. We do not have any printed programs or schedules, and we do ask that students and families, all of you all download the app. It's also where you're going to find the K-Week schedule come August, and as well as the Family Weekend schedule in October. So it is a great app to have to be able to reference even after you leave for the day. All of our presentations that will take place during the orientation program will be able to be found in that app after orientations take place. So come next week, all those presentations will be uploaded. I will note that is on the to-do list for this week. But all those presentations will be there for you to reference even after you leave for the day. So do be sure to download that UK Guides app. We'll also have QR codes there when you check in, if you need to still download the app when you get onto campus. That's it for my main reminders. If you do have any questions about accommodations, about major changes, any deadlines that we have, you need to change the number of guests that are attending with you, you can just email orientation@uky.edu. Over the next 4 or 5 weeks, that's going to be the best way to contact us, particularly as we are going to be more often away from our phones as we facilitate those orientation programs. That orientation email is going to be the best place to get in contact with us for any questions you have, not just these ones here on the screen. But with that, I'm going to let Nancy chime in for any questions she's seeing in the chat that I can help answer.
All right, McKaylee and Destiny, thank you so much for all that good information. Y'all, we are going to have a fun summer with these folks. They have a lot of questions, some of which that you have answered as you've gone through, but we'll just run through them again just to make sure that everybody has the information you need. I also see some folks raising their hands using that Zoom feature. We are not using that today, so the best way to reach out to us is through that Q&A. All right, so I know you briefly mentioned which residence halls would be open for touring. I know folks, many of them are in the process of doing room selection and are really eager to see where their student will be living. Will you remind us which halls will be open and what room types they'll be able to see if you know that yet from the housing office? And just to reiterate that they won't be seeing the exact room their student's in.
Yes, Fortunately, the residence halls undergo deep cleaning over the summer, so not all of them are going to be open for us, but they will be nice and sparkly clean for when your students move in. But you'll be able to see Jewel Hall, which is where you will have a model room set up for a 3-person, 2-bedroom suite. And then Roselle Hall, which is where there'll be a 4-person suite, also emulative of the 4-person suites in Baldwin, Ingalls, and Smith. It's going to be a little bit different than the 4-person suites in Donovan and Johnson, but those are going to be our 2 model room types that we have available for you to view in person. I will also defer to our housing office's website. They have great 360 tours as well as descriptions of all the specific links. I knew when I was a student at UK, I wanted to get some nice curtains, and so I wasn't able to go in and measure the length of my window, but the housing website had it listed on there, so I was able to know what dimensions. But dimensions for all room types, not just the model rooms, you'll be able to see, as well as a 360 tour, can be found on the housing website as well.
All right. We also have some questions. And again, know you got to this a little bit later, talking about the technology needs that students will have both at orientation and anything we can tell them yet from our Smart Campus team about iPad distribution.
Yes, so at orientation, students will need to bring their own device. We ask that it be a laptop or a tablet or an iPad of some sort. The course registration system doesn't work too well with smartphones, so we do need a device. But students will be getting that iPad as part of that iPad initiative. They'll receive that once they move in. So come K-week, which happens that week between move-in and classes start, there'll actually be a couple of days on their schedule that students, that's when they'll get their official UK issued iPad, will be come move-in time in August.
And I put the iPad link in the chat as well. All right, we've got some questions that are about course registration, not surprisingly. One question is how they know if their students' final transcripts have been received by UK or if there's any outstanding transcript needs.
That's a great question. So students can check what's called their advising profile. So in that Canvas course that they have access to, we have a great document there that goes through how to check their advising profile to make sure we do have all of that correct credit listed, both credit from their high school transcript, as well as maybe they took some AP, some IB courses, making sure we have those test scores on file. So I would encourage the students to check their advising profile. We'll actually be able to see that in their My UK portal, but I do encourage that Canvas course goes through steps on how to see that advising profile. If we don't have it on file, you can just send it to admissions@uky.edu, or our admissions office will be who receives that transcripts so that we make sure we have it on file.
And then could you reiterate a little bit about what parents and families are doing while students are registering, and a little bit about why they're not in the registration space with their student? There's also a specific question about if a student has DRC accommodations, can families then be part of class registration?
So we really do encourage students to start forming that relationship with their college and their advisor when they're here on campus for orientation. They're going to be a great support system for their students, for your student at college. And so we think it's important to have them start forming that relationship at orientation. We do also have FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which you can read a bit more information about on the UKY registrar's website, to help students just forming that relationship. While students are meeting with their college families, you'll be taking part in our student panel, which is where you'll get to ask any questions you have of our current students. It's also where you get to hear a bit more about UK Invests. If your student does have some DRC accommodations, I'd encourage you to reach out to orientation@uky.edu so we can explore a bit more kind of about what that situation would look like and how we can best accommodate that. But definitely encourage you to reach out to our orientation email address and we can explore that situation in a bit more detail.
All right, we've got some questions about how students know who their advisors is, if they can chat with their advisors before orientation. So what can you tell us about the advising process, knowing that it looks different for our different undergraduate colleges?
So each advising situation, like Nancy mentioned, looks different for each college. Students will be getting an email from their academic college a few days prior to their orientation, really kind of helping set the expectations for what their advising experience will look like prior to orientation. Some colleges do one-on-one advising at orientation, some do more group advising, so you get to meet other students who will likely be in the same classes as you, in a similar major or career path, but still being guided by an academic advisor. After orientation, students will receive an email once their academic advisor has been assigned. They'll be receiving an email from that advisor, and then that's who they can reach out to after orientation for any questions that they may have heading into the rest of the summer as well as into the fall semester. But each college does it a little bit differently. Most advisors will be signed after orientation. At orientation, it is mainly more so course registration is kind of how we phrase it. And then students get to look forward to that actual advising, that actual one-on-one interaction, and delving deeper into that post once they're here in the fall.
And how does it work for students who have secondary advisors? Maybe they're in their Lewis Honors College or have additional advisors. Do they connect with them at orientation?
So some of them might be around for you to be able to meet. I know our Lewis Honors College will be giving a session. I know if your student is part of the CARES program, there'll be a session on CARES. They'll also be represented at our resource fair. So you're welcome to stop by and meet with them, but there's no formal meeting at orientation. You get to look forward to forming that relationship once they're here in the fall with that secondary advisor.
I feel like my hands are getting a workout. I'm looking up websites, I'm putting them in the chat, I'm answering questions, I'm trying to see the new questions as they come in. This is great. Let's see. We have had several folks in the Q&A ask about the Disability Resource Center to discuss academic accommodations. Maybe they had a 504, an IEP, something like that. So I have put the Disability Resource Center link in the chat. McKaylee, remind me where the DRC participates in orientation. They're not really timed. That's not, I don't think where they're taking appointments is my understanding, but it's certainly a chance to have a quick in-person conversation, but the rest of the process will play out over the summer.
Yeah, so our Disability Resource Center will have a table at our resource fair for you to ask any more kind of individual questions. Our well-being kind of office, which is the overarching unit of the Disability Resource Center, will be giving a presentation as one of our student success sessions. I will also note, new this year, our Disability Resource Center will be kind of having what they call a sensory room. So I think Destiny touched on orientation. Lots of people, really exciting, but it can be overwhelming. So if there is a time that you just need a quiet space to step aside, but whether it's you or your student, the DRC will have a sensory room available within the student center. for you to check out. But Disability Resource Center, you are welcome to go ahead and get in contact with them, make sure you're registered with them so that we do have those accommodations in place now. It does not have to be done prior to orientation, but you will want to make sure that you're on file before the school semester starts.
All right, another theme I'm seeing in a few of the questions is about major changes. So anything that they need to know about changing their major prior to orientation.
Yes, I forgot to talk about this, so very glad you brought it up. So students are able to change their major up until a week prior to orientation. So we do have a 7-day out deadline. Students will not be able to change their major at orientation. This is because their advisors in their college do need time to prepare to meet your students. So we don't have that flexibility within that week leading up. So we have that 7-day deadline. So for my very first orientation next Monday, your student's deadline is today to change their major. They can do that at go.uky.edu/major change. You can also find this information in their Canvas course, as well as on that orientation checklist. We do ask it be submitted 7 days prior. It'll be reviewed by our admissions office to make sure a student is eligible for that request. And if they are, they will be updated accordingly.
We had a clarifying question about the timeline for course registration, what they'll be doing at 1:30 versus what they'll be doing at 1:45 on this slide that you had earlier that had the schedule for the day.
Yes, so students will break up to start meeting with their college and their advisor and start having those conversations at 1:30, but they'll have at least an hour to talk with their college before they can actually go in and click the register button. So they can actually register for courses starting at 2:45, but this is where they have that time to talk about degree requirements, about their academic and their professional interests with their college and advisors ahead of then actually registering for classes at 2:45. So it starts at 1:30. And then the registration window is open at 2:45, but I will note that is kind of why we have a bit of a range of an ending time. We don't have a set ending time because students, we don't want to put a limit on that timeline for that conversation they have with their college. So if they are still talking and it hits 3 o'clock, 3:15, that's okay. They're welcome to still be meeting with their college and having those conversations.
All right, technology is great when it works and a pain in the neck when it doesn't work. Apparently the QR code for the UK Guides app on the slide didn't work. So where's the best way that they can find the UK Guides app?
Honestly, the best way is just Google UKY space guides. It's also the button, like a URL can be found in the Canvas course, as well as orientation.uky.edu/checklist. But I personally just always Google UKY guides, and it's typically the first one that pops up.
And I had a question, is there a passphrase to get access to that guide, or should they just be able to find it?
No, so you don't need to log in at all. If it's asking you to log in, you can just click in the little X button, should be in the top right corner. No passphrase needed to be able to access that guides app.
And if folks are having other issues with technology, how can they get support? Somebody mentioned an issue with Duo and other technology questions like what laptops their students may need if they need something beyond the iPad. Can you share a little bit more about the role that IT plays at orientation?
Yeah, so we do understand technology issues happen. I go through a fair amount of them myself. So we do have IT. They're going to be available throughout the whole entire lunch period, particularly as we head into that course registration time to make sure students are all set up with Duo Mobile, with their Link Blue, logging into the UK systems so they are able to register for classes. But if you do have any issues in the meantime, our IT department is fantastic, particularly with that Duo Mobile issue. They can be accessed at, if you want to input the phone number, I can recite it, 218-435-859, 218-4357. But that IT department is going to be a great help for any kind of Duo Mobile, Link Blue issues that you might have. As far as the laptop requirements go, I know you asked me about that a few questions ago, and I've never touched on it. That is really more dependent on your student's major and their college. A lot of colleges will not have any specific requirements, but some certain majors, particularly within, I think, digital media and design, or maybe engineering, might have some more specific requirements. I'd encourage your student or you, when you're here for that family college meeting, just ask that question to your student's academic college, and they would be able to best help on the answer on if there is a requirement for your student's major as to a technology requirement.
I think we're doing so good getting through questions, and I look and then there's still a ton to answer. We'll take as many as we can. There was one, I'm still scrolling, for Destiny asking about, I think the student in question is telling her parent that she doesn't need to come to orientation. So the question was specifically whether Destiny thinks that there is a need. Oh, here it is. Should parents come to orientation with the student? Our daughter is thinking about going on her own.
Yeah, so I think it's nice to have that support during orientation. There's like a lot of information that you can get throughout the day. So just having someone else maybe taking some notes or just even just having that support with you is always beneficial. Um, and it's also you're experiencing this for the first time being on campus. And so just kind of enjoying that excitement with someone else is also really nice. So I would definitely advise having a parent or a guest come with you during orientation.
McKaylee, anything you'd add to that about the role of parents and families at orientation?
I think Destiny did a great job, but we really do encourage, it's not required, but we do encourage you all to come. I think it's great, even if you've had a student that comes through orientation before, knowing I was also a younger child in the family, just to have that support of my family members beside me, even if they've been through the program before. It was my first time going through it and my first time having those questions. So I did appreciate having my family members there, even if I thought I was too cool for them. And I was like, no, 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 you go eat lunch over there. I'll eat lunch with my new friends. It was nice to have that support for me, even if I acted like I was too cool for it at the time.
All right, so this question really, but either one of you can answer. Good question about what can the students do on their own beforehand to really prepare for the advising meeting and for registering for classes?
Um, I think I would definitely just go in, well, I guess my UK. Okay, so that's something that we definitely introduced during the orientation day. However, there's different links that they can go on to. You can search up UKY and just search up whatever college that you're enrolled in. And I think there's always a lot of information on there just to kind of usually I just like to research things ahead of time. It kind of gets me excited and to see what I'm really like getting myself into within UK itself because it's a very like majors can be very broad without other universities. So seeing how UK delivers this specific major and that college individually, I think is very helpful. Um, even following our usually different colleges have Instagram accounts or different social media accounts that post maybe different or events that they may host or just have different advisors or people just kind of promoting that specific college. And so just kind of trying to network and connect prior to coming within different organizations within your college, I think is always useful.
McKaylee, anything you'd add to preparing for advising and registration?
I think just taking a look through, I don't think it ever hurts to take the responsibility of knowing what your major is asking for, what credits you're coming in with, and just having a fuzzy recollection of that always helps. Your advisors are going to be prepared and they know that major map that is going to best help your student, but it also helps to know it yourself heading into that. So looking through that My UK portal, that Canvas course will really help them guide through just the course registration system, just how to simply search for a class, knowing what the course prefix is, what a section number is. That Canvas course really goes through it all. So I do encourage students to take maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just look through it, try it out for themselves in their own portal. They won't be able to actually register for classes, but they can still do all the functions besides actually clicking the red register button. So just becoming familiar with it and understanding what you're coming in with and what you also want to take will best help set them up for that course registration time.
And so those Canvas modules take about 30 to 45 minutes. There's a question about that. Her son has unfortunately not started them yet and comes for orientation next week.
It's okay. Yes, they'll take about 30 to 45 minutes. They are two sections. The first section really focuses on checking that advising profile to make sure we have those transcripts on file, that your major is listed correctly, all of that, as well as running through the course registration system. We do have a second module that runs through a lot of our campus resources. So the academic resources, student excellence, housing and dining, which is more so just for students to be able to reference anytime, even after their orientation, for different contact information for those offices. But the first module that runs through that course registration system, their advising profile, and that advising prep form should take about 30 to 45 minutes to complete.
How does the Big Blue Nation orientation for transfer students look different from the first-time freshman version?
Yes. So I will note a lot of the schedule that we run through today is for our first-time freshmen. Our transfer students, which we just had one last week, but we'll have two more this summer, are more of a half-day orientation format. So they actually get to start with the resource fair. So come prepared with all your questions to start. Your check-in is open 8:30 to 9:15. And then you'll actually have a presentation that will run through a lot of our support systems. It will run through athletics and as well as a refresher on that course registration system. That should last about 45 minutes or an hour. And then that is when, after that, students will split up to go to course registration, and families, you'll have that supporting your Wildcat presentation with Nancy. And then you all will be done for the day around noon. But you all, one of the best benefits of both our transfer orientation day as well as our freshmen is that they take place during a normal work day. So all of our campus offices are going to be open. So if you do have any questions about, particularly for our transfer program, about financial aid or housing, the Disability Resource Center, you have all afternoon to head to those offices and ask any questions you have in person there.
All right, I'm still scrolling. Remind me, does the Veterans Resource Center participate in the resource fair? Got a question about whether they could connect with veterans benefits while they're on campus.
Yes, so the Veterans Resource Center will be present at the resource fair at all of our freshman orientations. And they'll be definitely encourage you to stop by that table, get in contact, make sure we have all the documentation in place, particularly around any GI Bill, things we need heading into the school year.
I'm seeing a few questions about parking, both for orientation and if they're staying in the residence halls overnight as part of orientation. And if they have selected that residence hall overnight stay option, where do they get more information about checking in and all of that?
So parking, I think it's that one. The parking will be in Cornerstone Garage throughout all 4 weeks. So even if you're coming up that night before, that Cornerstone Garage at 409 South Limestone will be where you park. It's probably about a 4-minute walk from Jewell Hall. I will note Jewell Hall does have some meter parking right in front of it. So if you want to drop your stuff off and then go park, you're all welcome to do that. In terms of the actual stay in Jewell Hall, that is actually facilitated by our housing office. So summer conference housing is going to be a great contact for you, but they should be open for check-in typically the afternoon prior to your stay. Sort of like a normal hotel, they'll be open. I don't know their specific time, but anytime that afternoon, you should be able to just get into the lobby of Jewell Hall, and they'll be able to check you in and give you kind of get like a temporary access key card to get into that room that you'll be assigned for that night, or even the 2 nights if you are staying 2 nights in that residence hall.
Right, I'm going to ask this question of Destiny. There's a question about what happens before classes start, and the question is there another type of orientation? So if you wouldn't mind telling them a little bit about K-Week, that would be great.
Yes, I love Cake Week. I was a part of the cake group this past spring, or this past fall rather, and it's a great week and an opportunity for students to start to connect with their colleges, with the residence advisors within their dorms, and then as well as just other students on campus. Um, there is usually like a schedule that's sent out to them, and they can see the different things that we have scheduled. So we have a lot of different traditions that we do as far as like our campus ruckus. It's one of our major events that A lot of different organizations are able to table that and just kind of present what they have to offer. And then students can network and join different group chats and see when their organizations are having events and just kind of find their footing within campus. And then we also have different other events. It kind of varies throughout the different years, but it's a lot of fun. And each student will be assigned a K crew leader. And so this leader will take them to the event. So campus is very large, and so you don't want to get lost. And so basically, the K crew leader will take them to different events, also just to kind of be a comfort to them if they don't know anyone on campus. And it's a great way to just meet friends um, who are, your same age range coming in as a freshman as well. And so that's usually the right before classes start from like Wednesday to about Sunday. There are many different events that they can go to. And then also, aside from K Week, there's also just organizations that host events that's not necessarily connected to K Week, but is happening during that same time. So there's a lot going on.
Michaela, can you talk a little bit about course availability? Knowing that there's 4 weeks of orientation, some of the folks who are coming to us a little later in July have questions about how UK makes sure that their student has options too.
Yeah, so I will note that is a common question we get, and UK is very on top of it. There's a group that actually meets to ensure course availability throughout the duration of the programs. We work with our classroom scheduling office as well as the registrar's office to ensure that no matter what orientation date your student's coming to, even if it's the very last one, we'll also say we even have very last minute orientations come August during move-in, that they are able to register for the classes they need to make sure they stay on track for a degree. That might mean that they might get an 8 a.m., but there's also no guarantee that students who come to the June 16th date, just depending on what credit you're bringing in, what major program you're part of. We work with the variety of offices to make sure there's ample course availability, even on our very last orientation dates.
Right, you're catching me typing as I'm also scrolling and doing all the things. Got a couple questions about dietary accommodations during the meals. And I know you all have that all squared away, but if you could alleviate any concerns, that'd be great.
Yes, so we do, at least in the morning, have gluten-free. I'll specifically talk gluten-free. We'll have gluten-free muffin options, but for our not dinner, for our lunch at Champions Kitchen, UK actually has what's called True Balance, which is a dedicated kitchen within the dining hall, but it has its own kitchen space that eliminates 9 of the most common dietary allergens. So gluten, dairy, I don't know the other 7 off at the top of my head, but it is a completely safe kitchen area. I will speak from personal experience as well. I've never had any issues there at True Balance. If you do have any more specific dietary questions, feel free to reach out to orientation@uky.edu, and we can get in contact with our dining team as well if we do need any special accommodations outside of True Balance. Happy to help work through any accommodations that are needed on those dietary restrictions.
Answered a few other questions here and there about things like parking and move-in. All of those will be covered in later Cat Chat Lives in mid-July to mid-August. So as we have more information from those offices, we'll be putting them in the Cat Chat family community, but then you can also know that those additional webinars are coming soon. All right, we've already talked about major changes. Oh, got a question about where folks can find a course catalog so that they can see kind of what the requirements are for different colleges or majors in advance.
Yes, so the course catalog, the schedule of classes, major maps, all of that is actually found in a student's MyUK portal. So myuk.uky.edu. That's actually where they will go in to register for classes as well on that orientation date. So that's where they can go navigate all of that Canvas course with there's how-to videos, as well as some PDF screenshot guidelines to help them understand how to navigate that. That's where they'll want to go to understand those major maps. Some advisors have actually already gone in and added in advisor recommendations, kind of depending on the college, but that is where they can go to find all that info.
All right, as I'm scrolling, I'm finding questions about adding majors, adding minors, not necessarily changing majors, but like a double
Mhm.
major scenario. So how do students go about making those additions?
So students will actually be able to add a minor, declare a second major once they're here on campus in the fall. They cannot do that over the summer as an incoming freshman. So on that advising prep form, which is what students fill out to give that info to their advisor, they can include if they are interested in a second major or in adding in a minor, so their advisor can best help prepare them on what classes to register for, but they will actually officially do that in the fall. But they can still go ahead and prepare for that, just making sure their advisor has that info when they're registering for classes.
Haley, I think I missed adding the website about changing majors. Missed that putting it in the chat. Would you mind doing that for everyone? We've already answered about what students can do in advance. You mentioned adding guests, things like that, and you can do that by emailing the orientation office. You know, folks are asking about high school siblings, other family members. As long as you think that they can, sit through the day's activities without causing you too much grief. I have 2 kids, so I know how the younger one likes to be up in the older one's business. So yeah, if you think that they can hang with the program for the day, they are more than welcome. And if you have not already registered that guest, you can email orientation@uky.edu to do that. All right, Michaela, so you've added that. Let's see. Oh, I've got a question about how do they know if their orientation date's been confirmed?
Yeah, so students, where you register for orientation, which is in that MyUK portal, students can go back in and see that, and it will now show that you are registered for this date with this number of guests. So that's where you can check. It's just their MyUK portal, student services, admissions, orientation, registration. I know that's hard to remember off the top of your head. So you're always welcome to email orientation@uky.edu, and we can do a quick check to make sure we have your student registered and what date we have them registered for as well.
Got a request to go back to the slide that has the morning schedule for orientation. I know that it's an early morning, and hopefully our folks who aren't necessarily morning people will caffeinate and set all the alarms that they need to be there on time.
We'll have to go through the transitions here really quick.
But it was such a cute PowerPoint, even if that QR code didn't work. Got a few folks, Michaela, while you're navigating there, I've got a few folks asking about move-in appointments. The housing office is going to be sending out information about move-in appointments. I believe that's a week from today. And so more information will come to your student about that process. And again, as we get updates from the housing office, those will also go in the Cat Chat family community. All right, got another question about if you paid for lunch but want to attend the Lewis Scholarship Session, what's the best way to navigate that? So you've got that lunchtime, but not necessarily the times there on the screen.
Yes, I do realize that now. So lunch
Yeah,
will
that's fine.
start about 11:15 and will last all the way until 12:30. Honors College session, I believe, will be 12 to 12:20. So you can plan your lunchtime around still going to that session. So still plenty of time to go have lunch and then head to the session. Same with that financial well-being section. That will take place at the beginning of the lunch period. So you'll have time after that session to then go get lunch afterwards. But all those sessions with the specific times can be found in the UK Guides app for you to be able to plan your schedule around.
And so I think some folks, it seems like, are having issues accessing the UK Guides app. It will all be ready to go starting later in the week at most. But yeah,
I'll
I
also
would
make sure
recommend.
to check on it, and we'll make sure it's all set.
Right? Because again, technology is great when it works. And when it doesn't work, then you get a lot of messages from people like, is it just me or is this an everybody thing? So we'll make sure everybody gets the UK Guides app. As Michaela said, there's signage when you arrive at orientation to scan the QR code and all that. So I got a question about, is it true that if a student goes to the gym, it helps with tuition? I know they'll learn more about UK Invests at orientation, but Destiny, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, that is very true. You can get paid for actually going to many different events on campus, including the gym. And then there's also different, events or like meetings that you can sign on to and learn about many different things such as budgeting and things of that nature. But that all goes into UK Invest, which is something we'll learn during orientations. But yes, that is true.
Oh goodness, there's also a question. My daughter has a tendency to not read emails. I'm sure as I say that, many of you are like, oh, so it's not just my student. So they were asking, is there a way for parents to log into the student's UK email to help them so nothing is missed? Gosh, that is a tough one, right? Because we want our students to be really taking charge of this process. They really need to own it and be more independent. And I know it makes you crazy if that you think there are things that are happening that they're not doing that they might be missing. That's part of the reason that we have the Cat Chat family community. So we'll try to let you know, hey, students are getting this information or students should be taking care of this. And so I think that's a way for you to have those conversations with them. Hey, I saw from UK that this is going on. Have you taken care of that yet? I think you can also, maybe instead of bombarding them with questions every time they enter the room, maybe if you think that they need some extra nudging from you, then maybe you say, hey, what if we set up a weekly check-in time to make sure that everything you need to do for UK is being taken care of? Because of, again, wanting to foster independence. I don't know that I'm personally an advocate for parents logging in as their students. There's also, two-factor authentication makes that a little technologically cumbersome. Michaela or Destiny, do you have any tips for families on, students who maybe aren't owning the process, need some additional family support? We'll also talk about, ways that you can encourage this this independence in your student at orientation. But no, it's not just your family. It's not just your student.
I think something that helps me is just setting some reminders or something that just kind of reminds me, hey, I should probably go check my email, or maybe asking your students just not daily because you don't want to overwhelm them or scare them or anything, but just checking in every now and then. Hey, have you, completed this? Or just want to double check. Have you checked your email? Have you heard from this, maybe this department or housing or something of that nature? So like just making sure that you're checking in with your student, but maybe not like overwhelming them. And then also just creating an open space or a comfortable space for them to come to you, like, actually, I did have a question about this, or I may need your help, or something like that. And then that's where you guys can work together to contact orientation or any other office in the school.
Right. That was another moment that I was trying to type and unmute at the same time. All right. So I got some questions about dual credit and making sure all of that is documented. Michaela, I know you talked about getting transcripts in earlier, but if you wouldn't mind hitting that one more time, that would be great.
Yes, so students can check to make sure we have all the correct credits, whether they're high school transcript, AP, IB scores, and dual credit on what's called their advising profile. Their Canvas course will give them some guidance on how to check that. But that is a great reminder for dual credit in particular. If your student did earn dual credit, we will also need a transcript from the institution they received dual credit at. So even if that dual credit is listed on their high school transcript, we are not able to use that to equate the transfer work. So we do want to make sure that whatever institution they earned the dual credit at, whether that was BCTC, Louisville, Moorhead, wherever it may be, make sure we get that transcript from that academic institution as well sent to the admissions office so we can get that credit onto your student's account.
All right. Again, we've answered more than 100 questions and still have a lot open, but I also know that it is nearing 1:15, and I normally try to keep these to an hour because I know folks are busy and appreciate that there are hundreds of you who have hung out with us. Michaela, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat to everyone, not just the host and panelists one. I think that major could change link now that I'm seeing it, maybe in the host and panelists. If you wouldn't mind putting the orientation contact information there, or back up on the screen, that would be great. And I'm also going to put the parent family team's email in there. If we did not get to your question, my deepest apologies. This time flew by, and I love how eager you all were to ask your questions. If we did not get to it, please don't hesitate to reach out to parents@uky.edu. Michaela's scrolling through all our transitions again. Or to the orientation team if your question is specific to orientation. And we will make sure that you get the information that you're seeking. I promise that there is much more to come in these Catch Up Live webinar series in the Catch Up Family Community portal. Yep, there it is, orientation@uky.edu. So this recording will be posted in the Catch Up Family Community later today. And again, apologies if we didn't get to your question live. Oh, I didn't hit enter on that. I need to work on my multitasking before this next Catch Up Live webinar. Y'all kept us on our toes and I love it. But yes, thank you so much for being part of Catch Up Live. Michaela, thanks for the information. Destiny, thank you as always for providing your current student perspective. I'm excited to see all of these folks at orientation. Is there any final words that you'd like to share before we let everyone get on with their day?
I would say we are really excited for orientations the next 4 weeks, excited to meet you and your students and welcome them into the Wildcat family. But any questions, feel free to email orientation@uky.edu and tell students to do their campus course.
Yeah, absolutely. And to check that email. Destiny, any final words of advice before they come to campus for orientation?
Just we're ready for you. We are excited to meet each and every one of you all. And yes, I'm just excited. So I hope this was very helpful for everyone.
Yeah, we love having students and families on campus. Campus has been really quiet since the spring semester ended. You know, we've got our summer students around, but it's still not the same level of activity. So we are eager to greet you at orientation, and we are here to support you and your student throughout their time at UK. So again, apologies if we didn't get to your question. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We hope it was helpful. Send those emails to us if you need us, and we look forward to seeing you at orientation. Thanks so much, and go Cats. Bye, everyone.